Okay, it is May and it is time to go live. What's up, everybody? Nate Albaugh here from the basement in Tolono, Illinois. Thank you for joining us tonight. We're live, baby. We're live, Tolono, Illinois, 7 miles away from my downtown office in Champaign, Illinois, which is where we went live for the first 5 months we were going live. But things have gotten a little busier for me. Although the football season is over, your Tolono Rockets, I guess our Tolono Rockets went 5-0. Come on, baby. Oh, I'm wearing the Unity Wrestling stuff right now, but we went 5-0. It was a good season. We had we played 3 teams that weren't as good as us. So, you got to beat the teams that you're better than. And we played 2 teams that were as good as us, or close. At least, teams that were good enough to beat us, and we won both of those games, one in overtime. The other one, which was our second to last game of the year, we ended up winning 25-19. And that game was tight from start to finish. That was a blast of a game. Welcome, everybody, you guys. Thanks so much for joining us. Hey, if you're getting here for the first time or the 80th time, check in. Let us know where you're watching from right there in the chat. If you're on your phone, you got to click a little button below the video that says chat or something, or view comments, something to that effect. Let us know where you're watching from. I see Eddings in the house out of Southern California. Ben Campos out of Southern Illinois. Larry Albaugh out of Northern Georgia. Welcome, guys. Glad to have you. This month, you see the new logo, May Live Installs. This month, we're going to feature one guy for 4 days straight. This week's is Micah Hunsaker. Hunsaker? Man, shoot, just forgot. And Micah is the offensive coordinator at American Fork High School in Utah. Max Prep's top 10 ranked team out of Utah, and they sling the ball all over the place. What I want to do is I want to talk install, not like just talk install. I want to know nuts and bolts. I was thinking about this the other day. If I was to come in somewhere and have to install my offense, whatever I would call mine, you think about it for yours, what does day 1 look like? What is important to us? What is okay to wait till day 2? Do you just start? Does day 1 look like day 2? And as you're selling this to your staff, what are the things that you tell them about your offense? What are our priorities? What are our majors, as Coach Van de Zan said? Coach Gardner's in the house out of Utah. Welcome. Larry has not gotten his hat yet, because when I got home, Larry was already gone to Georgia. So Larry's in Georgia. I should ship him his hat, shouldn't I? Martin Quiroga in the house. Welcome back, Coach Quiroga out of Chicago. Welcome. Glad to have you. I think you guys are going to like Coach Hunsaker. They've got a great staff. I just posted, you'll see the new videos. I just posted their newest video, American Fork's newest video, which is on wide receiver play. Dirk Stevens and Randon Manuela did that video presentation, and both did an incredible job. It's over an hour long on wide receiver play. And you can see again, just quality coaches, very impressed. I'm going to go share this out to Twitter, let our guys know that we are currently live, and we're going to go bring Coach Huns in the house. I'm going to go say live now. All right. If you guys could leave us a thumbs up before we get started, don't hesitate to ask questions or leave questions or comments. Day 1 victory formation, inside zone, and trap. What's up, Lucas Freeman in the house? Welcome, guys. Coach Kazar in the house out of Kansas, and he's our sponsor of our videos that are going over onto the live clinic, or onto the actual clinic, online clinic. Coach Kazar off of the Coach Pad. Hopefully you guys have checked out the Coach Pad by now. It's a really cool tool, and I think you guys could benefit a ton from it. Let's go let Coach Hunsaker in, and then we'll clarify if it's Hunsaker or Hunsaker, because I have officially forgotten. Admit. There we go. Admit. Go hide my own face. Hide self-view. switch over to my guest scene. There you are, Coach. Everybody's got you now. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. Now remind me how to say your name. Hunsaker or Hunsaker?
Hunsaker.
Hunsaker. Micah Hunsaker out of American Fork High School, Utah. And you grew up as a caveman. Is that right?
I actually grew up just a few houses down the street from the high school. My dad still lives in that house. So, I'm a caveman through and through.
And now the offensive coordinator there at American Fork, and the head coach there is a guy named Aaron Beam, fellas. And I coached with Beam when we were both, I mean lowercase G's. We were baby faces, man. We were just pups. And we coached together for a year, and then I was off. Here's the truth. They let me go for my teaching job. You know why? Because I was no good. All I cared about was coaching, and I didn't have anyone around that could kick me in the butt and say, Nate, you better be a good teacher or you're not going to get to keep coaching. Long story short, ended up being the best thing for me. Got my attention, one, landed in a great spot, two, so it worked out. But tell us about working with Coach Beam, man. He's seems like such a good dude.
He's such a good dude. I've been really lucky. I had been coaching at American Fork for about 4 or 5 years before he came. And the coach before him was my high school coach. He'd been there forever. So our high school has got a tradition of that. I mean, we haven't had a whole lot of coaches. Most of them stick around. There's a lot of stability with it. And, it was kind of interesting at first, when I found out about this Aaron Beam, he's coming from Illinois. We don't know anything about him. But as soon as he got here, I mean, I have a great relationship with him. He's been, like you said, he's one of the best dudes I've ever met in my life. Like, he's just rock solid as it gets. He's got such a good demeanor to him. He doesn't get too high, doesn't get too low. And I mean, to me, I obviously going to be biased, but there's no one in at least our state that I think compares to him as far as building a program. His culture, the way he develops young men, I mean, it's something to behold. I mean, he does a phenomenal job with it. And he's very good with all his coaches. He lets me, he doesn't micromanage or anything. He trusts us. He lets us do our thing. And that's half the reason why I stuck around this whole time. I don't want to go anywhere. Like, it's hard to find that type of situation.
Oh, it's very hard. And I think that it's something that I was a head football coach for 11 years. I've been out for a couple now as a head coach. And those are some of the things that I've learned a lot about or at least have been brought to my own attention, at least when I reflect, is I'm going, okay, how do I keep great guys around, right? And I think you're right. When he lets you, your offense, you have a huge, that's your baby, right? It's not like his baby you're taking care of.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's something that's, we kind of developed and more. I mean, it's interesting because, you may know this, knowing the background of Aaron, that when he came here, he actually called plays his first 2 years for high school, but he ran the triple option. That's what he knew. That's what he coached. That's what he had played in. And so it was hard, after a couple of years, you realize, this probably isn't going to go the way we want it to here. It wasn't, taking hold much. And so they had to make a change. And to his credit, he's learned other things. He's trusted his assistants. He's let us build something. And, it couldn't happen with any coach. So many coaches have too big of an ego. They want the attention. They want, the credit, all that stuff. He doesn't care about that. He cares about the kids. He cares about giving them the best chance to win, and that's it. So,
man, that's great to hear. That's awesome. Hopefully that's something that I can get better at. Certainly, I know that it is something that most coaches struggle with. We all have to fight our own egos. Well, guys in the chat, welcome. You're here listening. Hey, myself, Nate Allball, high school football coach out of Illinois, and Micah Hunsaker out of American Fork, Utah. American Fork, perennial top 10 max preps, ranked in the top 10 max preps in Utah pretty much every year. Played in the state title game, I believe, in 18 and 19. Is that right?
was it 19? 19, 18, and 14.
And
So
14.
2014 was the first time we got back there since '62.
Wow.
So there was a big stretch there. And so since Aaron's been here, we've been 3 times now. Hoping to finish the job one of these times.
Yeah, well, now they got a machine going at American Fork, an offense that is really, really cool, and I've enjoyed studying it because I had to edit your 2 offensive videos you guys did for the online clinic. So Coach Manuela and Steven's video just came out about an hour before this came live. So I just released that over on the online clinic, and that's an over an hour detail of wide receiver play. Incredible. And really too, beyond just wide receiver play, they didn't spend any time on drills. Like they showed one slide like, hey, here's a quick list of our drills and some links if you want to go check them out. But they really just introduced kind of your passing families, which I'm sure at some point this week we'll get to your passing families.
Yeah, for sure.
And, it just stood out like it's an inside receiver coach and outside receiver coach. Like I felt like they had ownership in that.
Oh, 100%. I mean, to be able to produce numbers and to be able to be competitive and try and win at the highest level, you got to have guys you trust and guys, and it's the culture. For me, it's probably the same as Aaron does with me running the offense. Is I want to have assistants have ownership and do their thing. We're going to talk together, we're going to game plan together, but at the end of the day, I want them to have pride in their job and what they're doing. And I couldn't ask for better guys. Those 2 are awesome. They're so committed. They're phenomenal to work with. I mean, I've known Randon for years, Coach Manuela. He went to American Fork High School as well. He's 2 years older than me, so I was a sophomore in high school when he was there. And his father-in-law was the former high school coach at American Fork for years, Coach Davis Knight. And so, and then Dirk, I've been with him for almost 10 plus years now too, coaching. And so that's a big part of success, I believe, is stability, continuity, and allowing yourselves to grow that way.
Well, we got a couple more coaches in the house. Welcome to everybody who's checking in. Of course, Coach Gardner in the house out of Utah, right around the corner there from you. He's from Park City. Yeah. Coach Banky in the house out of Arlington, Texas. Welcome. Thanks for checking in with us. Todd McDonald in the house out of Fort Myers, Florida. I'll tell you what, we got a great staff. We're going to start talking a little ball, but before we do, I'll just tell you guys, like, as I'm editing these videos, I couldn't coach at American Fork because you guys must have some sort of team barber in the house because they got perfect haircuts. Look, they don't let bald dudes in the house at American Fork. Like, look at Hunsaker's hair, pristine. That's every dude on their staff. Perfecto. You guys got a staff barber? What's up?
The truth is, a lot of us do go to the same barber. So, we had to find a guy that could trim the beards and the hair and do it all right.
Hey,
so
they got their guy at American Fork, man. Hey, Finn Grant in the house out of Carbondale, Illinois. Welcome, guys. Let's start talking a little ball, Coach Hunsaker. Fellas, if you guys that aren't familiar, we go live for 30 minutes. It goes really fast. It's already 8:13. We'll talk ball here for about the next 15. Tomorrow night, Coach Hunsaker's coming back all week, guys. We're going to try to just really talk nuts and bolts of install. And if you don't run what they run, I still truly believe that you can get a ton out of just listening to a guy's install plan. Because in my opinion, what it comes down to is, first and foremost, what do we value? And is what we value being seen? Can you see that within our practice time? What we value. So let's start there with what you value, Coach. Let's say you're coming into a new program and you're going to be the OC and you get all your offensive staff and it's day one and they're asking you, okay, Coach, tell us about the offense. What is our offense? Because listening to when Stevens said within the wide receiver plan, he's like, we throw the ball 550 times a year.
We do throw it a lot.
I mean, that's a lot. Okay, so tell us, day one, staff meeting. Guys, here's what we're doing offensively.
So, the big thing is the install would probably be still very similar to kind of what we're doing right now in our spring practices because, each year it's like you're starting from the beginning, right? Yeah, we have returners and things like that, but you can't cater it just to a handful of guys. We got to teach them all from the get-go. And so really basic stuff. We do throw it a lot, so obviously we'll have to focus a lot on the details of the passing game, but it's not like the interesting thing. People see kind of our numbers and think, they're just throwing the ball around everywhere. But the reality is we do have a pass game, but like our run game is essentially 100% RPO stuff. That's something I believe heavily in. And so really when I'm calling plays, I'm trying to call balanced. And I say balanced, I mean 50-50 to true pass, run RPO call. And depending on what we get week to week, we may throw the ball a lot more because they want to take something away from us, But so the very first thing I'm going to focus on and practice one with our guys is, we're going to teach and install essentially our route tree, if you will. The core, the base routes that we're going to run a lot. Because before you run concepts, before you try and do all these things, you've got to be able to do the basics right. And individual techniques, those type of things, our coaches will take care of that. When they have their indie time, they're going to make sure all of our guys have proper stances, proper alignment, the basic things, right? They're going to be great at that. But the routes are huge. We got to make sure we're hitting our depth on everything. We got to teach them how to stem off defenders, not just run what we call, whiteboard routes, which most young kids, people are learning, you draw plays up on the board and they think, okay, that's how I do it. Well, it doesn't just work that way, right? We've got to be able to teach them to run their route to the right depth and do it by avoiding defenders, right? And so that may be seen, that can be seen as something that's maybe a little boring, but we would work the crap out of that in the beginning, and we still do. It started every spring.
Now, when you say that, we're going to work the crap out of stemming these routes?
Yeah, just running routes with different looks, right? So we're going to say, hey, today, we're going to work through all of them. But, for example, say we're running the curl route, right? Is what we call a 6 in our route tree, or the concept is what we call 6 as well. And we're going to run curls. We're going to run to the right depth, but we're going to change up different looks on them too. We're going to have them pressed 1 minute. We're going to have a guy off. We're going to have a guy inside shade. We're going to have a guy outside shade. And we've got to teach them how to run those routes and give themselves the best opportunity to get open. And that's really where we have to start.
Now, okay, so I was listening to, first of all, I want to say hi. A couple more guys showed up in the house. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Coach Gaskin out of Dayton, Ohio. All right. I was listening to, he's a veteran coach out of Missouri. His name's Roger Van de Zan. And he said something that has just really always stuck in my mind. And that's that, here's what we major in, he said. We major in bang, 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 bang.
Right.
And again, now we want to make sure that our majors are being seen. So if you summarized, we major in, where would you take that?
I mean, we obviously, we major in, as far, you're talking not just pass game, in general, right?
In general, offensive philosophy. Yes, okay. Here are the things we need to be great at.
Yeah. So we're going to major in essentially the base concepts that most people run. We're going to run smash concepts. We're going to run curl flat concepts. We're going to run four verts. We're going to run, all those things that are basic. We're going to run them really well. And we're going to major in changing up the presentation of them. That's what we're going to do. We're going to be great at running smash, but we're going to run it out of multiple different formations. Or we're going to run it with motion. We're going to run it with different personnel. That's what we're going to do. That's what we major in is running our base stuff multiple ways. And then when it comes to run game stuff, we're going to major in zone. That's our first thing. We do run some gap man concepts, but zone I've come to love. I feel like it's the big thing I believe in is trying to keep things simple for the offensive line up front. They don't need to be thinking a ton throughout it. We want them to play aggressive and physical, and so we want to rep the crap out of zone from the very beginning, give them different looks, different fronts, different alignments, different pressures, whatever it may be, and get them used to blocking it. Because if we can do that, honestly, then it allows us to put more time and attention to detail in those other passing concepts that we talked about, or RPOs and things like that. We can change all that stuff up, but we're going to keep it simple in the basic stuff that we do. If that kind of makes sense, I hope.
So tell me this. Now we're already on to our final 10 minutes of the show tonight. Tonight I really wanted to think day one.
Okay.
So I'm going to grab a couple positions and talk day one with these couple positions. Offensive line, day one.
Mm-hmm.
When you finish on day one with the stance and start first step stuff.
Yep.
What's coming next? Day one conversation with your O-line.
After the stance, all that stuff.
Yeah, before team time, but after like basics.
Right. We're gonna work the inside zone stuff. We're gonna work double teams, those type of things, right? We're gonna get used to working with somebody and working to a linebacker, right? Because we're gonna have the technique, like you just brought it. Those are things that are important. That's the starting point. But then when it comes to zone, you've got to work with your teammates and you've got to talk. That's the other thing I want to hear. I want to hear talk up front, and I want to work together. Double teams, getting off, getting pushed, those type. Like, that's what I would focus on more than anything in day one. If they can identify who they're working to, right? Work a double team. They may not get off clean. They may miss a block. I mean, it's day one. And in most cases, like for us in spring, we're not in pads either. And so it's even harder to bring the physicality. But I want to see that they know their assignment, right? That we're doubling to this guy. And so really that's all I'd focus. I'm not going to add a ton more onto their plate. We may work a little pass protection, but honestly, we're going to rep pass protection. We don't change a lot of ours. Our 6-man pro, 5-man pro, that's like 90% of what we do. It doesn't vary. And so it's just like the inside zone. We're going to run those same protections against a bunch of different looks and a bunch of different, so hopefully we get really good at it, middle of the season towards the end of the year. But that stuff I'd probably wait a little bit, day 2 or day 3, because I'm not super concerned. I want to get the run game going. I want them talking, getting doubles, getting push.
Well, I see Randon showed up, our guy Randon Manuel out of American Fork. He's a wide receivers coach there. Okay, so O-line, after stances starts, after your basics, they're going to work inside zone stuff. And so that by the time, now on day one, are you gonna organize day one any different than day 2, 3, 4, 5? Or are you trying to make practice structure-wise day one look like all days?
I think for the beginning, the practice 1 will be very similar to practice 2, 3, 4, and probably up to like 6. Like for our spring practices right now, we've got 10 total spring practices. And so I try and divvy up our installs to get most of it in by that 6th or 7th practice. And all of those are going to be the same. We're just installing new things, and keeping it the same. Like we've done almost everything on air for the most part. I want to see, like when we call concepts, that we're hitting our depth, we're hitting our spacing. Guys kids kind of make fun of me, but I always talk about how I love triangles. Like I want to see triangles in the pass game, and so I'm looking up. To me, that indicates good spacing, good depth, route depth, all of that stuff. And I can see that on air. Our coaches can see that on air. Yeah, it's nice to have some competition going, but in the beginning, we just need them to learn. They have to know their assignment before we can compete at a high level.
Now, you're going to work with the O-line on inside zone. However, you said that you won't just call inside zone. It would be attached to an RPO.
Yes.
So will the kids be having that conversation before team time? Now, I'm doing this under the assumption that offensive practice time is culminating in some team time, but maybe I shouldn't make that assumption. Is that how it would culminate?
Yeah, we kind of break it up a little bit. So we have like multiple team times, multiple what we call group periods. So like inside run, RPO period is a group period, 7-on-7, Skelly's group period, and team. So we try and keep every period, we go 5-minute periods, but nothing more than 10. So we'll have a 10-minute team period, then we'll go back and do some more indie. and then we'll do 7 on, and then we'll go back to team at the end. So we're teaching something in the beginning, right? We're seeing what they know through the first group period, through the first team period, and then we're able to see, okay, what are they grasping? What are they missing? Where can we help them? And now we can address those in Indy after, because now they're going to have their Indy coaches, their position coaches again for another 15 minutes, right? And they can go over that stuff, and then we'll come back again, the same things, and hopefully by the end of practice, we've seen a lot of that stuff kind of clean itself up.
Well, I want to say hi to Jerry Payne in the house, head coach at Charleston High School here in Illinois. Coach Steve in the house out of Chicago suburbs. Addison Trail, I believe, right? Coach Payne, Coach Steve, how did your seasons go? Let us know. All of us Illinois guys just finished up our season, Coach. Our squad went undefeated, by the way. Undefeated. We had a good year. All right, let's move on, because we are down to our last 5 minutes. So I'm going to skip the running backs for now, since you throw the ball 550 times a year. Let's talk wide receivers.
Okay.
What's the goal day one? Like, tell me this. Is there like, hey, day one, let's install X play series or family?
Yeah.
Is there a family you're starting with?
Exactly. So like total, we have 6 passing families that we call them. And the reason why I broke them into families is essentially so kids know why I'm calling a specific concept, right? Like all of those concepts within a family are going to have similar characteristics, right? Similar strengths, similar weaknesses, right? So if it's like day one, we're gonna install curl flat family, right? Because I mean, who doesn't love curl flat? I mean, it's old as dirt, but it's so effective. And we're gonna install probably the top 3, maybe 4 concepts within that family, and we're going to rep the crap out of those and get really good at them. There are additional ones to the family, but usually we'll pull from those later on in the year, game plan wise, something we like. But really, every one of these concepts, we're going to have a guy finishing in the curl area and a guy in the flat area. It may not be a curl route. It could be like, what we call a glance or a quick post and an arrow, right? But it's going to be in the same way. Even a slant arrow, to me, it's quick game, but they're still ending up in the same area, right? The slant is going into the curl area, and the flat, with the arrow to the flat. And so we're gonna rep all those. And now kids know, okay, when he calls this concept, he's trying to read the curl flat, right? There's a reason for it. We're not just grabbing plays off a board and throwing it. So that's
real quick, and forgive my ignorance.
Yeah.
You said there's a reason why he's calling curl flat. Help me understand that reason.
So like a lot of it is I try and teach the kids coverages, right? Strengths and weaknesses of coverages, that type of stuff. And so especially quarterback play. So they know, okay, we're getting a lot of cover 3 or something, right? Which cover 3, you're thinking weak or curl area, and so if we're seeing a team that's going to play a lot of cover 3 on us, then we're going to work a lot of curl flat stuff. And it may not just be the typical curl and flat, right? It'll be variations of it and variations of looks, right? Formations like we talked about earlier, motions to it. But now the kids know, okay, I have to get to this depth because this is what's open, right? These are the areas, the weaknesses of the defense that we're trying to expose. Or you flip it when we start working on like what I call the levels family. That's more middle of the field reading, top down type of stuff. Your post, dig, shallow. And so now they know, hey, I'm going to call those type of things mostly on a too high type look, right? Where I feel like we want to try and attack the middle of the field. And so for the players, it's kind of like, okay, now I see why. Hopefully they see why he's calling these plays, right? Sometimes if you're calling the same play over and over, I mean, kids are like, coach is crazy, right? Like, come on, this is getting boring. But if they understand why you make the play call in the first place, then they can get on board with that, right? And usually if you're calling it over and over again, it means they're not stopping. And so hopefully everybody should be happy with that anyway.
Right. All right, Coach, we are down to our last 1 minute, but hey, listen, there's no harm, no foul going over a couple minutes. So let's just wrap up tonight talking day one with that quarterback. Now listen, you got a quarterback. You guys had said in your presentations you're big on the R4 system, and listen to you guys talk about it. I think I'd probably more sold on the R4 system listening to you guys talk about it than I ever had been. So listen, you got R4 to teach. Day one install is an RPO. Like where, and you got to spend time on throwing mechanics with a quarterback.
Right.
Coach, how do you quantify day one, and what can I possibly get taught in just one day with my new quarterback who's never met me before, or, has never worked a day at my practice? Like, give us an idea of where you would start.
It's a lot. I'm not going to lie. I mean, quarterbacks, we expect a lot of them in our system. I work with them a lot, even off-season film, teaching, doing everything I can like that. But the thing that quarterbacks need to understand is I want to make sure their eyes are in the right place. They may not make all the right reads. I mean, I expect them to make wrong reads, especially if it's a new guy. But if they understand what every route ties into, right? When you say R4, we got our rhythm routes, read routes, rush routes, and every route is essentially tied to one of those. And so they're always going to start their read with the rhythm, then their second read will be the read route, and then rush can be anytime. It can be a hot route, it can be a check down at the end, right? And so the big thing I want to see from them day one is they understand what those routes are, and their eyes are in the right place, and they're reading it right. So if I'm calling like a post dig shallow concept, right? I want to make sure his eyes are reading the post, right? And he's not just throwing a shallow, or he's not just going backside for something else. Like, those are the main things. And I tell quarterbacks, whether they're young or old, one thing I feel like they have a hard time with is so many of them are afraid to make a mistake. They get out there, especially if it's a competition, they're trying to win it out, they don't want to make a mistake. They don't want to throw it in the wrong spot. They don't want to throw a pick. And I tell them over and over, listen, in my opinion, quarterback is not a black and white thing. It's very gray. I think there's a lot of, there's hard to understand. Not everything is clean cut. So just tell me what your thought process was. If you throw an interception, but you tell me, well, I thought I saw this, and that's why I went here, I can live with that. Right? Because it tells me you understand and you're working through it. I'm not gonna yell at you for throwing a pick, because I want to see that you can understand and try and work through that process. So be aggressive. I mean, quarterbacks that play not to, make a mistake or try to play safe, they're never going to take you where you need to go, because in big games and big moments, it's going to be tight, and they're going to have to make big plays. And so, you know what? I just assume you make those mistakes now, right? And you got to build that culture. I feel like they need to know that, like, if they make a mistake, I'm not going to go ballistic. I'm not going to rip their head off. But what I'm going to say, turn to them and say, hey, why did you throw it there? And as long as their reasoning is sound, I can accept it. Or I can say, well, okay, I see what you're saying, but you should have looked at maybe this. And that's how we teach it, right? And so big part is I just want to see them understand that. I want to see them take chances. I want to see their eyes in the right place. And RPO wise, that's a lot harder too. In the very beginning, I want to make sure that they can at least see the field right. How many we have in the box. They're going to make mistakes on that, but it's the same thing. Just tell me what you saw, right? Did you think this guy was coming or not? And the more you do those things, the more you talk to them and give that feedback, and they know that they can turn to you with questions, or that you're not going to, tear into them in front. It becomes a lot easier to grow, and they're a lot more open with it.
Coach, we are over time. I feel like we're really just getting started install-wise, which is why I made Install Series. We got Micah all week. Hope you guys will come back and join us tomorrow night. Before we go, I want to ask you this last question.
For sure.
In Coach Manuela and Coach Stevens' presentation, they pointed out that you guys had 54 seniors this year.
Right.
Okay. So you've got you obviously have an incredible program. You've got lots of good athletes that are competing for spots.
For sure.
I've always had a hard time and wondered how it's done at a school or at a program the size of American Fork, when you've got a lot of athletes to choose from when they're young, that freshman class coming in. Surely you've got 4 kids, maybe 8 that are dying to be that QB.
Right.
How on earth do you, like, and I feel like too, you know, you like a lot of kids that want to be quarterback, man, it's soul crushing when you they finally realize their road has ended. Like, how do you, at that young age, when they're first coming in, start to pick out, this kid might have it, this kid might have it?
It's hard. I mean, especially when it comes to quarterback, right? Because a lot of it, I mean, they can make great throws in 7-on-7.
Yeah, because a lot of it's intangible, right?
Yes.
He might not be the strongest or the fastest,
right?
But it's like,
I want to see how, more than anything, I want to see how they can handle pressure. Like, can they actually stay in a pocket and throw? And the one thing that, I mean, our growth is, we've been fairly big, but a lot of it has happened, I'd say, within the last 5 years. I mean, last year we had the most kids we ever had. This year now, we've beaten that. We're going to have the most kids we ever had. I think sophomore, junior, senior, we're somewhere like 160 kids this year, which is, I mean, I would have never believed that years ago.
Yeah.
And so now it's, one benefit is we try and get into Little League system early, right? We want to try and teach the coaches our system. We want to try and teach them and help them in ways so that way we kind of have an idea who's coming up, and hopefully they're trying to do our stuff, at least, you know, the basics of it. And so I can watch games, I can see film, and I can see how a young kid is, you know, dealing with it in that type of situation. And another one is a lot of these guys too, like I've worked with for years, you know, they want work, and in the off season, I'll, you know, do some training here and there with them just so I can get a better feel for them.
Yeah.
You know, like,
right.
It's one of the hardest things. You know, this year we've got a senior. He's going to be a 3-year starter, which we rarely have. But then after him, I mean, we've got 2 sophomores that are competing. We got 2 freshmen, you know, and so right now, a big part of me, I'm not worried so much about our starter, right? His production is proven. Right. But I'm trying to find who could be a backup or who that next guy is. And so we're putting them in those situations right now. We're trying to see how much they can handle. Can they handle the whole offense? Can they handle when things get bad? What's their body language like, right? Like when something goes wrong, like those type of things tell me a lot about a kid.
So in the offense, which position do you coach?
I coach quarterbacks.
So you coach quarterbacks?
Yeah, I mean, in times I've kind of gone around. Last year we had another guy that I coached before that helped me with quarterbacks, but he's not going to be able to help this year, so I'm getting a little more hands-on, which is good. Because like I said, we have all these young ones. I want to get a feel for them. But we, you know, especially when you're working with quarterbacks, we mingle with all the other positions a lot, you know?
Yeah.
Especially individual work backs, receivers, all that stuff.
Yeah, so, they're not just by themselves very often.
No. We do a little bit because like you said, we got to work on mechanics. We got to work on footwork, all that. And so we're going to take 10 minutes out of like our total, you know, 25, 30 of Indy, and we're going to work those things. But the rest, we're going to throw to receivers. We're going to work mesh with running backs, all that stuff.
True or false? If you have 2 quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks.
True.
At least I was wondering what you true QB guys think about that.
Yeah, I think it's hard. I really do. I you know, it's especially if they have a similar skill set. I just figure let's find one, you know, and let him ride for a couple games. And if he struggles, then give the other guy. But I don't like the in and out. I have a hard time with it.
Well, guys, thank you all for joining us tonight. I want to thank Micah, of course, Coach Hunsaker, for joining us out of American Fork, Utah. And he'll be back with us tomorrow night. And the next, we're going to talk ball. We're going to talk a little bit bigger picture tomorrow with this offense. We'll dive in deeper. Again, they are very successful. Fantastic program out there. Hope you guys will join us. Coach, have a good night. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow night.
Look forward to tomorrow.
All right. We'll see you then.
Okay, we'll see you.
All right, what a great night. I'm really looking forward to this. If you could leave us a thumbs up, we would much appreciate it. Give us a follow over on Twitter at @TheChiefPigskin. And of course, if you haven't subscribed, what you waiting for? Have a good one, guys.